Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me. It had become a routine, a silent dance between us, a rhythm I didn't question until it hit me like a sledgehammer. Too late, too suddenly. Every evening, around the same time, Lena would announce her short walk, her little ritual that had become as predictable as the ticking of the clock. It had started out innocently enough. At first, it was something she needed to clear her head, or so she said. And I, being the dutiful husband, had accepted it, even encouraged it. But as the weeks passed, the walks began to feel like an escape, something she needed to do more and more frequently, something she did alone. The funny thing is, I never questioned it. Until that day, I don't know what triggered it. Maybe it was the way she kissed me goodbye that morning, quick and absent, or the way she adjusted her coat, as if she were heading out on some important mission. But something inside me, something primal, stirred. I felt the shift in the air between us, the weight of unsaid words hanging over our house, in the spaces where she once lingered. She had always been a creature of habit, but this felt different. I couldn't quite place it, but the sense of something, some invisible line that had been crossed, was growing unbearable. And so, I decided that I wouldn't let this go on any longer. It wasn't a moment of epiphany, but a quiet, cold decision to take control of something, anything, before I lost my mind. That evening, Lena stood at the door, pulling her shoes on, ready for one of her short walks. She didn't ask me to join her this time, as usual, and I didn't offer. I just watched her from the living room, my eyes narrowing as I pretended to look at the book in my hands. "You'll be back soon, right?" I asked casually, more to myself than her. "Yeah, just a quick one," she replied, her voice light, betraying nothing. She had that smile on her lips, but it didn't reach her eyes. I didn't respond, just nodded, my eyes still glued to her as she grabbed her coat and stepped out into the chilly evening air. She had no idea what I was about to do. I didn't follow her immediately. I wanted to be sure she didn't know I was watching. It wasn't about catching her red-handed. It was about knowing if I had the strength to face whatever the truth might be. Because deep down, I knew I didn't want to be blindsided anymore. I wanted to see it all, to understand it all before I made any decisions. 15 minutes passed. The clock ticked louder in the silence of our house, as if it were counting down, marking the seconds that I couldn't afford to waste. I stood up, pulled on my jacket, and slipped out the door, careful not to make a sound. I didn't follow her right away. I just waited, watching from behind the curtain of the front window, waiting to see which direction she'd take. When she turned the corner and disappeared down the street, I followed. I walked slowly, maintaining a safe distance, not quite sure what I expected to find, but knowing that whatever it was about to change everything. The streetlights cast long shadows on the pavement, and the neighborhood felt strangely empty. I had walked this same street 1,000 times, but tonight it felt different. Every footstep I took echoed in my head, making the world seem more real, more vivid. There were no distractions, no sounds to mask the intensity of this moment. I had no plan, no grand strategy. It was just me, walking behind her, letting her lead me wherever she wanted to go. But the further we walked, the more my anxiety grew. Where was she going? I thought I knew every inch of this neighborhood, but tonight it felt like she was pulling me into a foreign world, one where I was nothing but an outsider. Then, she stopped. It was the slightest pause, a brief moment of hesitation, but it was enough. She stood still, looking down at her phone. I stayed hidden behind a tree, just far enough that she wouldn't see me. Who was she texting? I didn't dare move closer, but I watched her, the way her fingers danced over the screen. There was something about her body language that sent a chill up my spine. It wasn't just the fact that she was texting, but the way she was checking over her shoulder, as if making sure she was alone. What was she hiding? The wind picked up, and Lena shivered slightly, pulling her jacket tighter around her. She started walking again, this time with a quicker pace, her head tilted forward like someone on a mission. I kept a safe distance, walking in the shadows, hoping she wouldn't notice me, but desperate to know where she was going. The more I followed, the more my mind ran wild with possibilities. And then, just as we reached the edge of the park, I saw him. He was standing by a bench, arms folded, waiting for her. My heart dropped to my stomach. He didn't look like a neighbor or a casual acquaintance. He looked like someone she had been waiting for. The way he stood, so confident, so assured, was like a signpost I couldn't ignore. Lena stopped a few feet away from him. There was no hesitation in her step. She smiled at him, and it was the kind of smile that made my heart ache. It wasn't just friendly, it wasn't just polite, it was intimate. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just a short walk. This wasn't just some harmless moment of fresh air. This was a meeting, a rendezvous, and it wasn't with someone I knew. I felt my entire body go numb, the weight of betrayal pressing down on me harder than I could handle. The man leaned in, his lips brushing her cheek in a kiss that made my breath catch. I could feel the ground shifting beneath me, as if the very world was breaking apart. I had no idea how long I stood there, my hands shaking, my heart racing, but I couldn't move. I couldn't make a sound. I could only watch. And that's when I realized, it wasn't about catching her, it wasn't about confronting her. It was about deciding what I was going to do with this knowledge. She went on her short walk, so I turned it into her last chance to see me. I couldn't move. The sight of Lena and that man standing there, sharing that moment, was more than I could process. It felt like time slowed down, like I was stuck in a bad dream I couldn't wake up from. I had always trusted her, believed in her, and now I was watching the woman I thought I knew stand so close to someone else, in a way that made my stomach turn. The man brushed his fingers against her arm, a simple touch, but it meant everything. I watched as she laughed, the sound of it sharp in the otherwise quiet evening air. It was a laugh I hadn't heard in months, the kind of laugh that came from something real, not forced. She looked happy. She looked alive. And in that moment, I felt like a ghost in my own life. I stayed hidden in the shadows, my pulse pounding in my ears. I didn't know what to do, what to think. Should I confront them? Should I walk away and pretend I hadn't seen a thing? My mind raced with 1,000 thoughts, each one making my chest tighten more than the last. They continued talking for what felt like forever. He said something that made her smile even wider. I felt a pang of jealousy, of rage, but most of all, I felt the ache of being completely invisible in my own marriage. It wasn't just about the physical distance between us anymore. It was the emotional chasm that had opened up, one that I hadn't even seen coming. As they wrapped up their conversation, the man placed his hand gently on her shoulder. It was subtle, but it was intimate. I couldn't deny it. I saw it clearly. This wasn't just a friendship. She turned to leave, her steps quickening as she started walking back toward the street. I waited a few moments, my heart still pounding in my chest, trying to steady my breath. I needed to think. I needed to figure out what to do next. I followed her at a distance, each step feeling like a betrayal of its own. But I couldn't just let it go. I couldn't pretend like I didn't know anymore. When we got home, Lena walked in like nothing had happened. She dropped her jacket on the couch, her face still flushed from the walk. She didn't notice me standing there, barely able to contain the rage and confusion swirling inside me. She was acting normal, too normal. But something had shifted. I could feel it in the air between us. "How was your walk?" I asked, trying to sound casual. My voice didn't sound like my own, too tight, too forced. She turned to me with that same smile, the one she always wore, but this time, it didn't reach her eyes. "It was nice. Just needed some fresh air," she replied, her tone light, but I could see the flicker of something in her eyes. A flicker I couldn't place. I nodded, trying to steady myself. I didn't know what to say next. Didn't know if I even wanted to hear her answer. "Did you meet anyone?" I asked, keeping my voice steady, trying to disguise the storm of emotions inside me. Her eyes widened just a fraction, a small hesitation that lasted only a second before she shook her head. "No, just a walk." The lie was so obvious it made my skin crawl, but I didn't call her out. I couldn't. I needed more. I needed to know why. "Okay," I said softly, my voice betraying nothing. But inside, everything was screaming. I wanted to confront her, to demand the truth, but something told me to wait. The problem was, I didn't know how much longer I could keep pretending, because the truth was right in front of me, and I couldn't ignore it any longer. The next few days passed in a blur. Lena went on her usual walks, and I pretended like I was okay with it. But inside, I was falling apart. Every time she walked out the door, I felt the knot in my stomach tighten. I couldn't escape the feeling that something was happening, something that didn't involve me. Every time she kissed me goodbye, every time she smiled, it felt like a mask she was wearing, and I was the only one who couldn't see behind it. I tried to act normal. I made dinner, I did the laundry, I even made small talk with her when she got home. But all I could think about was that man. The way he touched her arm, the way she smiled at him, the way she looked at him like she hadn't looked at me in years. I couldn't let go of the image, couldn't stop hearing the sound of her laugh, that laugh that was never meant for me anymore. But one evening, something happened that changed everything. It was just after dinner when Lena stood up and announced she was going for another walk. The usual routine. I didn't react. I sat in the living room, pretending to read a book, but my mind was racing. This time, I wasn't going to follow her like before. No, this time, I was going to let her think I was just going to sit there and wait. But as soon as she left, I grabbed my jacket and slipped out the door, keeping a safe distance behind her. I was done with the waiting. I wasn't going to sit around anymore, wondering what was happening behind my back. I needed to know, and I needed to know now. I followed her as she walked, each step feeling heavier than the last. The streets were quieter tonight, the sky overcast, as if the universe was trying to tell me something I wasn't ready to hear. She walked faster than usual, like she had somewhere to be, like there was some urgency in her step. It made my chest tighten. When we reached the park again, my heart began to race. I stayed hidden, watching from a distance, but I was determined not to make the same mistake again. I wasn't going to hide in the shadows and watch this time. I was going to confront it. And then, there he was. The same man. The one who had kissed her cheek last time. He was standing near the same bench, waiting for her. I felt the ground shift beneath me. My hands clenched into fists. There was no denying it anymore. Whatever was going on between them, it wasn't innocent. Lena walked up to him, and once again, that smile spread across her face. The same smile I used to get, the one I thought was reserved for me. But it wasn't. Not anymore. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't look away. I watched as they spoke in low voices, too low for me to hear. And then, without warning, the man leaned in and kissed her. Not on the cheek this time. No, this time it was on the lips, slow and deliberate. I felt my heart shatter in my chest. Every part of me screamed to do something, anything. But I stayed frozen, watching, knowing that my worst fears were coming true. Lena didn't pull away. She didn't even seem surprised by it. In fact, she kissed him back, just as deeply. My mind was reeling. How long had this been going on? Was it more than just a kiss? What else had she been hiding? I stood there, my body numb, as they continued their moment. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I wanted to scream, to yell, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. All I could do was watch as the woman I thought I knew disappeared into the arms of someone else. When they finally broke apart, Lena quickly turned to walk back in the direction of our house. But she didn't look like herself anymore. She didn't have that same carefree look she always had when she came back from her walks. This time, there was a distance in her eyes, a distance I hadn't seen before. It felt like she was walking away from me, even though she was walking back to our home. I followed her at a distance, not sure what I was supposed to do. How was I supposed to confront her now? What could I even say? The image of them kissing kept replaying in my mind, over and over, each time more painful than the last. When we got back to the house, Lena went straight inside without saying a word. I stayed outside for a moment, standing in the dark, trying to catch my breath. The world felt like it was collapsing around me, like the ground was slipping out from under me. I wanted to confront her right then and there, but I knew it wouldn't do any good. She would lie, deny it, and I would be left with nothing but my doubts. I needed to be smarter than that. I needed to think. But for the first time in a long time, I knew what I had to do. It wasn't about confronting her right away. It wasn't about shouting or demanding answers. It was about getting her to admit it on her own terms. I wasn't going to let her walk away from me again. The night was silent, too silent. I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears, the weight of what I had just witnessed crushing me from the inside. Lena, the woman I thought I knew better than anyone, had just kissed another man, and there I was, standing at the edge of our shared life, watching it unravel. I didn't confront her. I couldn't. I wasn't ready to face the reality of what was happening, but I also wasn't going to sit by and let it go on. No, something had to change. I needed to get to the bottom of it. The next morning, Lena acted like nothing was wrong. Her smile was just a little too bright, her voice just a little too casual as she made us breakfast. I could see through it, though. It was a mask, a shield, and it didn't fool me. I ate my breakfast in silence, my thoughts a storm of confusion and anger. How could she look at me with that smile after what I had seen? How could she look at me at all? But then again, Maybe she wasn't looking at me at all anymore. Maybe the man in the park had taken my place. I had to know. I had to understand what had happened. The only way I could move forward, whatever that meant, was to make her face it. She couldn't keep pretending like everything was fine. Not anymore. After breakfast, I watched her get ready for another walk. I stayed seated, my eyes following her every move. This time, I wasn't going to let her slip away without confronting her. I had to find out if there was still a chance for us, or if it was already too late. She stood by the door, her jacket on, ready to leave. I watched her, my heart pounding in my chest. "Where are you going today?" I asked, my voice quieter than I meant it to be. She glanced at me, pausing for a moment. "Just the usual," she said, shrugging it off. But I could see the hesitation in her eyes, the flicker of uncertainty. I stood up then, the decision made. "No, I'm coming with you." She blinked, clearly thrown off guard. "What? I thought you didn't want to go on my walks." "I don't," I said, stepping closer. "But today I'm coming, and you're going to tell me what's really going on." For a moment, she didn't respond. Her eyes searched mine, probably trying to figure out if I was serious. But I wasn't backing down. I could see her trying to hold on to that mask, but it was slipping. Finally, she nodded. "Fine, come with me." We walked together in silence. I could feel the tension thick between us, like an invisible thread pulling us further apart with every step we took. She didn't lead me to the park this time. Instead, she took a different route, one that I hadn't seen before. It was quiet, a little more secluded, with narrow alleys and side streets. I couldn't help but wonder if she was trying to lose me, trying to take me somewhere where she thought I wouldn't follow. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Not now. As we walked, I stayed close behind her, watching her every move. I needed her to crack. I needed her to show me the truth, whatever it was. I wasn't going to let her get away with this anymore. Then, just as I was beginning to think we were going nowhere, she stopped. And I saw him. He was waiting for her again, standing under the dim streetlight, leaning casually against the wall. I felt my stomach drop. This time, it wasn't a chance encounter. This was planned. She smiled when she saw him. That same smile. The one that I hadn't seen in ages, the one that made my heart ache. He stepped forward, his eyes locking onto hers as he reached out to touch her arm. I felt something inside me snap. I had to do something. I couldn't just stand there, watching. "Who is he?" I asked, my voice rougher than I intended. Lena froze, her eyes wide with surprise. She hadn't expected me to speak up, hadn't expected me to call her out. For a moment, we stood there, just the three of us. Me, Lena, and the man who had become a part of our life without me even knowing it. She opened her mouth to say something, but no words came. Her face turned pale as she glanced back at him. The truth was staring me in the face, and it was undeniable. "You need to tell me the truth," I said, my voice cutting through the silence. Lena looked at the man for a moment, her expression flickering with guilt and fear. And then, slowly, she turned to me. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't want you to find out like this." The silence between us felt suffocating. Lena's words hung in the air like a fog I couldn't see through, but I could feel. I didn't know whether to rage, to cry, or to walk away. Her apology seemed so out of place in that moment, so rehearsed, and it made my skin crawl. "I didn't want you to find out like this," she repeated, her voice quieter now, almost pleading. Her eyes avoided mine, flickering to the man behind her, as if he were some kind of shield she could hide behind. But I wasn't interested in him. I was interested in her. The woman who had been my partner for years, who had shared everything with me. At least, I thought she had. I took a step forward, my voice low, but steady. "Why, Lena? Why him? Why didn't you just tell me?" Her shoulders tensed, and she looked like she was about to say something. But the man beside her cleared his throat, stepping forward as if he were about to speak for her. "I think it's time for the truth," he said, his voice calm, almost too calm. "She's not the one to explain this to you. I am." I felt a surge of anger rise in my chest. Who the hell did he think he was? My eyes flickered to Lena, and she didn't say a word. She just stood there, waiting. I looked back at him, my teeth gritting. "You think you're just going to explain things to me?" I asked, my voice rising now. "You think you can just waltz in here and make it all okay?" He didn't flinch. "Look, you deserve to know the truth. I'm not proud of how this happened, but it did, and I'm not going to pretend it didn't." I could feel my blood running cold. Every word he spoke felt like a slap in the face. I looked back at Lena, searching her face for some sign, some explanation. But she just looked guilty, ashamed. Tell me everything, I demanded, my voice sharp. Don't leave anything out. Lena took a deep breath, her eyes locking with mine for the first time in what felt like forever. And then, finally, she spoke. It started months ago, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. When I began taking those walks. It wasn't just for fresh air. I was meeting him. We started talking, and one thing led to another. The words hit me like a ton of bricks. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I didn't want to hurt you, she continued, her voice breaking. But I couldn't stop. I felt alive when I was with him. And that wasn't something I could ignore. Her confession was a punch to the gut. I stood there, frozen, the weight of what she was saying sinking in. You've been seeing him behind my back. I finally managed to say, my voice trembling. Lena nodded, her eyes filled with tears. I never meant for it to go this far. But it did. And now I don't know how to fix it. I took a step back, the world around me spinning. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. My wife, the woman I thought I knew better than anyone, had been betraying me. I had been blind to it. I had let it all slip away without even knowing. Why didn't you just talk to me, Lena? I whispered. We could have fixed it. We could have worked through this. But it was too late for that now. The damage had already been done. Her confession hung in the air like a weight I couldn't escape. Every word she said sliced through me. But it was the silence that followed that hurt the most. The silence between us felt more deafening than anything she could have said. I stood there, my mind racing, trying to process what I had just heard. It wasn't a nightmare. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was real. Lena's eyes were wide with tears, and for the first time in a long time, I saw her vulnerable. But it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to fix what had been broken, to undo the months of lies, of sneaking around. I didn't want this, she whispered again, but I could barely hear her over the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. I never wanted to hurt you. Then why did you? I finally asked, my voice breaking. The words came out so much weaker than I intended, but I couldn't hold them back. Why did you let it get this far? Why did you let him touch you? Her face crumpled, and I saw a flicker of guilt, but there was nothing she could say to make it better. Nothing that would take away the image of her with him, laughing, kissing, everything I had thought was mine, now in someone else's hands. I don't have an answer, she said, her voice barely audible. I thought I was just lost, but I didn't want to lose you. You already did, I muttered before I could stop myself. The words were harsh, but they were true. She had lost me the moment she let someone else into our lives, into our marriage. I turned away, pacing back and forth in the quiet street. I needed space. I needed to breathe. The man, the one who had caused this storm, was standing silently behind Lena, watching me. He didn't say a word, but his presence was enough. I could feel the tension between us, like he was waiting for me to do something, to make the next move. But I couldn't even look at him. My focus was on Lena. How long? I asked, my voice hoarse. How long has this been going on? Lena hesitated. She wiped her eyes, her hands trembling as she finally met my gaze. A few months, she said quietly. I didn't mean for it to happen. It just did. A few months. The words felt like a punch to my chest. It wasn't just a mistake. It wasn't a one-time thing. It had been going on behind my back, in plain sight, while I was none the wiser. I felt like a fool. A stupid, blind fool. You didn't even try to fix things with me first, did you? I said, bitterness slipping into my voice. You just turned to him. I didn't know what to do, she said, her voice trembling. You were so distant, so absent. I felt like we were growing apart. I didn't want that. I wanted someone to talk to, someone to. She stopped, shaking her head, like she couldn't even finish the sentence. But I could finish it. I knew what she was trying to say. She had wanted someone else to fill the gap, to take the place of the man I had stopped being. She had given up on us before I even knew there was something to fix. Do you love him? I asked, the question hanging between us like a final verdict. Lena hesitated, her eyes flickering with uncertainty. I care about him, she said softly. But I love you. I never wanted to hurt you, I swear. I didn't know if I believed her, but I knew I couldn't stay here, trapped in this moment, hoping for something that wasn't going to come. I took a step back. I need some time. I need to think. I can't do this right now. Lena reached out, but I pulled away, the space between us feeling more immense than it ever had before. The trust was gone, shattered beyond repair. As I turned to leave, I could feel the weight of it all pressing down on me. The weight of the truth, the weight of the lies, the weight of knowing that my wife, the woman I had loved and trusted, had been living a double life. And as I walked away, I realized that everything had changed. There was no going back. I spent the next few days in a haze. My body moved through the motions of daily life. Work, eating, sleeping, but my mind was elsewhere. It kept replaying the scene over and over again. Lena's face, her confession, the way she had looked at me when she said she loved me but had betrayed me all the same. It was like I was living in a nightmare, and no matter how hard I tried to wake up, it felt like I was sinking deeper into it. I couldn't get rid of the image of her with him, the way she had smiled at him, the way he had kissed her. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it again. I felt sick to my stomach, the rage and heartbreak mixing into something that was too much to carry. I had no idea what to do with all of it. I stopped going home after work. I'd stay out late, wandering the city, trying to outrun my thoughts. I didn't want to face her. I couldn't face her. I didn't know if I could ever look at her the same way again. But even in my silence, there was a part of me that kept asking questions. Was it really over between us? Was there any hope left for what we had, or had she already closed that door without telling me? It wasn't until the third day after the confrontation that Lena reached out. She texted me, just 3 words. "Can we talk?" I stared at the message for what felt like hours. I knew I had to face her, that we couldn't keep living in this limbo, but part of me was terrified. What was there left to talk about? What could she possibly say that would make any of this okay? But I knew I couldn't avoid it forever. So, I replied, "Fine." "Where?" She sent me the address of a small cafe we used to visit when things were good between us. It was a place that held memories, good ones that felt like they belonged to another lifetime. I didn't want to go, but part of me still wanted to hear her out. I arrived first, sitting at a corner booth by the window, staring out at the street. The cafe was quiet, the sound of soft music filling the space. I tried to calm my nerves, but my mind was running wild. I could hear the ticking of the clock, every second stretching out like a small eternity. When she walked in, I barely recognized her. Her eyes were red, her face pale. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. It hit me then, the toll this had taken on both of us. I could see it on her face, the guilt, the regret, but also the fear of what might come next. She hesitated for a moment when she saw me, then walked over and sat down across from me. Neither of us spoke at first. The air between us was thick, like there was so much to say, but no words for it. Finally, she broke the silence. "I don't know where to begin," she said softly, her voice shaky. "I've ruined everything. I never wanted it to get this far, but I didn't know how to stop it." I looked at her, my eyes cold, my heart still raw. "Then why didn't you stop it sooner?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Why didn't you come to me when things started falling apart?" "I was scared," she admitted, her eyes filling with tears. "I was scared that if I told you the truth, you would leave me. And I couldn't bear losing you. But I was also losing myself. I didn't know what else to do." I clenched my jaw. I wanted to scream, to lash out at her, but I knew it wouldn't change anything. It wouldn't make her pain any less real, and it certainly wouldn't bring back what we had lost. "How long has it been going on?" I asked, the question burning in my throat. "How long were you seeing him behind my back?" Lena's face turned crimson, and she lowered her eyes. "A few months," she said quietly. "It started slowly. We were just talking at first, but it got deeper. And I let it. I chose to keep going, even though I knew it was wrong. I felt sick. So, all this time, while I thought we were working through things, you were with him. It wasn't a question, it was a fact. And it felt like a punch to the gut." "I'm sorry," she said again, her voice breaking. "I never meant for it to happen. I never wanted to hurt you." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to, but the betrayal was too fresh, too raw. The damage had been done, and there was no going back. "I don't know what to do with this, Lena," I said, my voice rough. "I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't even know if I can look at you the same way again." The tears were streaming down her face now. "Please, just give me a chance to make it right. I don't want to lose you. You're everything to me." The words hung in the air, and I sat there, frozen. Could I give her another chance? Could I forgive her for what she had done? My heart screamed at me to walk away, but there was a small part of me, a tiny part that wanted to believe her. But I didn't know if I could. The silence between us was heavy, the weight of the past few days hanging over us like a storm cloud that wouldn't dissipate. I could see Lena, her eyes full of regret, pleading for a second chance. Part of me wanted to give in. Part of me wanted to believe that love could overcome this, that forgiveness was possible. But then the image of her with him, her smile, her kiss, flashed in my mind again, and I knew that I couldn't just sweep this under the rug. I stared at her, trying to find the right words, but they wouldn't come. I had been the one who trusted her, who believed in us, and now everything felt shattered. There was no going back from this. Not for me. I can't just forget what you did, I said, my voice steady but cold. I can't just pretend like it never happened. What you did, it changes everything. Lena's lips trembled as she nodded, her eyes never leaving mine. I understand, she whispered. But please, don't leave me. Don't walk away from everything we've built. Everything we'd built? The house, the routine, the life that seemed so perfect from the outside. But it was all a lie, a facade she had carefully crafted, hiding her betrayal behind every smile, every word, every moment of affection that was meant for someone else. I stood up from the table, my chair scraping across the floor. Lena reached for my hand, but I pulled away. I need to be alone, I said. I need to think. This isn't something I can fix overnight. She looked like she was about to say something more, but I didn't let her. I turned and walked out of the cafe, the door chiming softly behind me, leaving her in the past. For the next few days, I stayed away. I didn't answer her calls, didn't reply to her messages. I needed space, time to think about what I wanted from this, what was worth saving. And as much as the part of me that still loved her wanted to find a way back, I couldn't ignore the truth any longer. I took some time for myself, a chance to rediscover who I was outside of the shadows of a broken marriage. I spent more time with friends, went back to old hobbies I had neglected, and for the first time in months, I felt free. Free from the lie, free from the pain of trying to hold on to something that was never going to be the same again. One afternoon, I came across something that made everything click. I ran into the man, the one who had been meeting Lena behind my back. He was sitting at a bar with a couple of friends, laughing like nothing was wrong. He didn't see me at first, and I debated walking away, letting it go. But then, something inside me snapped. I walked up to him, my steps firm, my heart pounding in my chest. When he saw me, his expression changed instantly, but I didn't give him a chance to speak. "You think this was just some harmless fling, huh?" I said, my voice low, controlled. "You think it didn't matter that you destroyed my marriage, my life?" He opened his mouth to defend himself, but I cut him off. "You don't get to do this. You don't get to hurt someone and walk away without consequences." I wasn't angry, not really. I was calm, almost eerily so, but there was a sense of justice in my voice that I knew he couldn't ignore. "Stay away from my wife. And next time you think about ruining someone's life, maybe remember that you don't get to walk away unscathed." He blinked, clearly taken aback, but I could see the fear in his eyes. It wasn't about revenge. It was about making him feel the weight of what he had done, just like I had felt it. He nodded quickly, his face paling. I left him standing there, feeling strangely satisfied. It wasn't about him anymore. It was about me taking back control, taking back my dignity. When I finally returned home, I found Lena sitting on the couch, waiting for me. She looked tired, broken, but there was something different in her eyes now, something that told me she knew this was the end. She didn't say anything at first, just looked at me with that quiet desperation. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I wish I could take it all back, but I understand if you can't forgive me." I stood in front of her, feeling the finality of it all wash over me. "You had your chance," I said, my voice steady but without emotion. "And you chose him." Her face crumpled in pain, but I couldn't feel sorry for her anymore. I couldn't feel anything for her. "I'm leaving," I said, the words finally coming out. "This is over. You've made your choice, and now I'm making mine." I walked out of the door for the last time, leaving the life we had built behind me. It was strange how quickly things could change, how easily a love you thought would last forever could slip through your fingers. But it wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of something new. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. And as for Lena, well, karma has a funny way of catching up with people. The man she had chosen over me, he vanished. Not a word, not a trace. She tried to reach out, but he was gone. And just like that, the betrayal she had inflicted on me became her burden to carry alone. In the end, it wasn't revenge that felt right. It was the freedom to move on, to find something real, something honest. And I was ready to find it. Please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. I read them all.